The closed beta for Lord of Mysteries MMORPG is officially underway and selected players have already received their invitations. It's also worth emphasizing that this is a strictly confidential test. Sharing gameplay footage, live streams, screenshots or recordings is completely prohibited, and any violation results in immediate access revocation and potential NDA consequences. So everything discussed here is based purely on player first impressions, translations and summaries, not direct footage, because there is any. You can follow all the new information and player impressions by following this account on x.com. With that out of the way, there's already enough information to get a very clear sense of what this game is trying to be, where it succeeds and where it still feels a little bit rough. The game is available for download for those that have been chosen, with the client sitting at 76GB and requiring at least 90GB of free space. That alone already signals this isn't a tiny technical test, this is a content-heavy beta meant to stress real systems. Now the main thing that you're all interested in, the combat and the gameplay. Multiple players have said that the gameplay feels extremely close to Justice Online, to the point where it's instantly recognizable if you've played that game or JX Online 3. PvP systems, dungeon structure, quest flow, auto padding, and even the one-button combo setup are all very familiar. Players described it bluntly as basically the Lord of Mysteries version of Sword of Justice MMO. Compared to Where Winds Meet, which leans heavily toward a single-player first experience inside an MMO shell, Lord of Mysteries MMORPG is very traditional. It embraces classic MMO roles with tank, healer and DPS, instance PvE, structured PvP modes and social systems instead of trying to blur genres. This is a safe design choice, it's not bold or revolutionary, but it dramatically lowers the risk of failure. Whether that safety becomes a long-term strength or limitation will depend entirely on how well the other elements carry the whole experience. Mechanically, the game avoids a global cooldown system like Final Fantasy XIV. Skills can be cast back-to-back in any order, which puts it closer to Guild Wars 2 in structure. There are also knockdowns, staggers and iframes, making it more action-oriented than classic top-target MMOs. However, several players noted that character movement during combat feels very stiff. Players compared it directly to Final Fantasy XIV and said that Final Fantasy XIV still feels significantly better in combat flow. Combat was also described as feeling like you're mostly standing there dealing damage and occasionally moving out of the way. One particular interesting comment was that the skill casting almost feels semi-turn-based. Not because of the cooldowns, but because of how animations and timing currently play out. That's not a deal breaker, but it does explain why combat isn't generating any hype yet, and why the developers didn't post any gameplay footage. Personally, this makes me think combat isn't meant to be the main hook, which is kinda disappointing. The real appeal is supposed to come from the systems, progression and the lore, while the combat just needs to be good enough to support that. I kinda don't agree with this, but we will see. Next, the game includes autopath seeking for quests, which is kinda standard for modern MMO convenience. You click on a quest and your character runs there. But there's also a one-button combo option, which lets you bind multiple skills into a fixed sequence and spam them with a single key. Basically, a macro. If you've played JX Online 3, this will feel instantly familiar. What's important to clarify is that there is no auto combat. Despite some early confusions, players did confirm that fights are not automated. You can't AFK dungeons or bosses, you still need to manually play, position and react. This kinda feels like a deliberate compromise, convenience without turning the game into an idle grinder. Roles are called pathways. Each pathway translates directly to a recognizable MMO role. Apprentice plays as a magic damage assassin with high burst and mobility. Seer feels like a ranged DPS role. Spectator acts as the healer. Warrior is a melee DPS, Bard functions as a tank with melee sub DPS, and Mystery Prior is another DPS focused pathway with utility. At sequence 9, players already have around 6 skills, which is generous for early gameplay. Initial impressions mention starting with around 4 to 6 skills, settling at 6 for sequence 9. Apprentice stands out in particular. It has blink abilities for gap closing or escaping, high damage output, and even an ability that allows opening doors without lockpicks. It's very clearly designed to feel flashy and strong. Mystery Prior, based on the tester knowledge, has crit rate self buffs, 2 AoE skills, a shield that dispels crowd control, and a total of 6 skills at this stage. Progression is split into 2 distinct systems. The sanity level appears at the top left of the screen and functions as your character level and health pool. Players mentioned reaching level 10 plus was very quickly done through the early quests. Sanity level is used to gate content, for example requiring a certain level to fight specific bosses. Your sequence level is separate and tied to pathway progression. To advance, you must complete quests, gain access to potion ingredients, digest your current potion via a progress bar, and only then attempt the next sequence. This split system justifies why your HP is sanity, why spectator heals sanity instead of health, and why mental stability is central to combat roles. It fits perfectly with the Lord of the Mysteries theme. One of the smartest design decisions so far is how the game explains early power progression. During the tutorial, the Fool grants abilities you will obtain in the future onto your character in advance. That's why a Sequence 9 spectator already has mental attacks, healing spells, and can even summon a Mind Dragon. It's also why Apprentice can use blink abilities associated with higher sequences like Traveler. These abilities are restricted in strength, but mechanically present. This avoids the classic MMO issue where early gameplay feels boring and weak, while staying fully consistent with the lore. This is one of those rare cases where narrative and gameplay genuinely support each other instead of fighting against each other. One of the biggest concerns people had was whether the game would actually look worse than the promotional videos. Thankfully, early impressions strongly suggest there is no bait and switch here. Tingen is confirmed as a starting city, and players say its design, atmosphere, and environmental layout match the gameplay trailers almost exactly. The gloomy industrial aesthetic fits the Lord of the Mysteries tone well. The city actually feels like it belongs in that world. Graphics overall are described as pretty good but not flawless. This is still a beta and it shows. Some animations feel stiff, certain areas need optimization, visual polish isn't fully there yet. That said, this feels more like unfinished refinement than broken design. The foundation is kinda solid and that matters far more at this stage. And now, yes, there is a gacha system, even though they said there won't be any. But it's handled in a very Lord of the Mysteries specific way. You pull characters from the original web novel, known as historical projections, and they become skills or utilities. For example, pulling Benson Moretti grants an ability related to bargaining or discounts when interacting with NPC shops. This system is called the relationship system. Pulling duplicates strengthens that character's projection, similar to constellation systems in games like Genshin Impact. There's also a sealed artifact systems, including special items. The system fits the lore well, but long-term balance will matter a lot. If historical projections become mandatory for endgame content, monetization pressure could quietly increase and it could become pay to win. PvP includes Arena PvP and Battlefield PvP, both of which are described as being lifted almost directly from JX Online 3. PvE dungeons and instances feel closer to Sword of Justice Online in structure. For solo players, the game includes AI teammates for dungeons and boss fights, which is a big accessibility feature. There's a player market and trade hall with a functioning economy. Currency is split between paid currency and an in-game currency. Importantly, you cannot PK other players to consume their Beyonder characteristics or turn them into sealed artifacts, which avoids griefing and balance nightmares. Also, a guild system is present. There is no full single-player mode like Where Winds Meet. However, story quests that involve reliving events from Book 1 are handled as single-player instances. Outside of those, the game is fairly MMO first. Tutorials and quest progression are the same across pathways, with no unique storyline branches per pathway at this stage. The game includes a large number of cinematic cutscenes during quests, which helps maintain narrative immersion. Character creation is described as decent with a solid number of face options, but nothing groundbreaking. Naming has a great lore touch. You can use English, Chinese or other languages freely, But if you name your character after an orthodox god or a major existence from the novel, you trigger a special cutscene where something gazes at you, spares your life, and forces you to rename your character. Cosmetics and skins exist in multiple forms. Some can be purchased directly with real money, while others use premium in-game currency that can be earned through quests, events, and daily activities. This suggests a mixed monetization model rather than everything being cash only. After going through all of these early impressions, my takeaway is pretty clear. This game is not revolutionary, and it's not trying to be. It's a traditional MMO built on a proven Chinese MMO framework, heavily inspired by Justice Online and Sword of Justice, but deeply infused with Lord of Mysteries lore, themes, and progression systems. Combat needs polish, animation needs refinement, some systems feel extremely familiar. But for a first closed beta, the amount of content and lore integration is kinda impressive. If you are expecting innovation, this game probably won't surprise you. And if you are here because you want to exist inside the Lord of the Mysteries world in a MMO form, this might be the first game that actually understands why that world works. But yeah, let me know in the comments your thoughts on this so far. Honestly, I'm not really impressed with the gacha system and one button combo combat system, but I don't know, you tell me.